After having turned the page from the investigations into the Fitzgerald and the McCain, as promised, we are going to start covering and talking about an issue that isn't talked about anywhere in the mainstream media. And you can go to any major news outlet and not find anything regarding the issues in going on in Central America. You'll see a few puff pieces about Venezuela, of course, but the real issues are not covered. So here we're going to take up that mantle. And we're going to start here just to start from the beginning, to show you which U.S. forces are actually in charge of protecting the Panama Canal. Now, about a year ago, I started ringing the warning bell about the threats, upcoming threats to Panama because of the folks that are infiltrating Venezuela and Colombia, and how big of an asset it would be, how big of a gain and a coup it would be against the United States to take that particular asset over. The protection of the canal falls under 4th Fleet. And the reason that we're here, this is an article from a couple years ago, but it just basically gives you the overview. This was when the command changeover took place. Sean Buck took over. And basically it's just these two paragraphs here that I'll cover real quick. U.S. Naval Forces Southern Command and U.S. 4th Fleet support SOUTHCOM, which is responsible for providing contingency planning, operations, and security cooperation in Central and South America and the Caribbean, except for U.S. possessions. The command also is responsible for the force protection of U.S. military resources at these locations and the defense of the Panama Canal. The Joint Command has about 1,200 military and civilian personnel from the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps, Coast Guard, and other federal agencies, and is based in Doral in Miami-Dade County, also home to U.S. Marine Corps Forces South and the U.S. Army Garrison Miami. Now, we've all heard of Marfa South. That's where the two high-ranking Marine commanders were drugged with scopolamine in Colombia. But that basically gives you the overview. That says basically 4th Fleet, they're the ones that are tasked with keeping the Panama Canal safe. Now, the naval component of 4th Fleet is Naval Station Mayport, right here in my backyard. And just to give you an overview of them, we are here, and this is pretty dry stuff so far, I know, but just hang with me. USS Iwo Jima, the New York, 3 coastal patrol vessels, 4 cruisers, 4 destroyers, a cutter, dock landing ship, and basically what we're going to try to talk about today is these littoral combat ships. Now, there was a piece that came out from the Navy about these Oliver Hazard Perry class frigates that they used to have the last 5 to 8 years, and actually beyond that, that had a presence in the Caribbean. And they've been withdrawn. In fact, the last one has already gone out of service, and it's left a giant hole down there, and they've seen a giant uptick in these drug events, these people running drugs, from South America through the Caribbean into Florida. This has been my big issue why the wall is kind of a non-starter, because the big boys, the heavy hitters, don't go overland. It's so much easier to take it through Florida and through, the Caribbean Sea and hit all of the almost myriad places, almost uncountable places on the southeastern coast of the United States. And the reason that we're this little letter right here, it talks about this, and he says, we discussed the idea of reactivating FFG7 ships, that's the Oliver Hazard Perrys, but the process of evaluating alternatives identified better solutions using LCS and EPF ships. Now, that's kind of what got me thinking about maybe they're seeing something coming down the road with the issues down there where they're going to have to put boots on the ground. This Scan Eagle is a very cool thing, and I would love to do just video on that. I would have, back in the 80s, would have loved to have something like Scan Eagle, to do, area recon and Overwatch. It's just an amazing, amazing thing. Just a little basically remote-controlled thing that, well, actually, I'll just go ahead and play it for you. It's here on Stars and Stripes. Give you something cool to look at for a minute. And this is launching off the USS Ponce. And they're going to want these on board these LCS and Spearhead class vessels that they're going to now try to use in Central and South America. That's your view from bird's eye there. And as it's zooming out, and just gives you a great view. And this is how they catch the thing. It's just amazing. Comes in, just a little hook, and that's how they get it back. So anyway, just wanted to show you that, and that's what they're going to try to do. But these Spearhead class vessels, this is the EPF ships, and their new kind of futuristic looking thing, catamarans, twin hull. But down here, when you look at what these things are able to do and their design features, it's about people. It's about getting people into shallow water. And the vessel has a length of 103 meters, a beam of 28.5 meters, and a draft of 3.8 meters, which is literally nothing. And the open, unobstructed mission deck has a usable cargo area of more than 1,800 square meters, with a clear height of 4.7 meters and a turning diameter of 26.2. Super fast ship. 1,200 nautical miles at 35 knots. 2 flight decks. And here's the thing, the crew. Listen to this. 4 MTU 20 volt 8000 or 20V 8000, whatever the hell that means. M71L diesel engines, and driving 4 water jets. But the ship provides accommodation for 42 crew members, airline-style seating for more than 312 embarked forces, as well as permanent berths for approximately 104 personnel and temporary for 46. So these are troop transports, guys. I mean, this is when you can put this many people, 300, basically an entire company, on one ship into a river, basically, and drop them off. This is one of the vessels that they're saying is going to replace these frigates. And I can't imagine, you know, why they would need this type of a vessel to accommodate 300 people unless they're planning on perhaps having some issue coming up where they're going to need to be putting people, you know, ashore in the Caribbean somewhere. I wonder where. Here's the other vessel. These have had all sorts of problems with them, and I know I'm going to get comments about this. These guys have just had so many nightmares with these Littoral class vessels, but they are designed for a couple of things too: anti-mine, anti-submarine, surface combat ships, and they really wouldn't be good for anything other than fire support at this point. And if this is what they want, you know, to do this drug interdiction, I don't know how this ship figures into a drug interdiction mission, but it would figure into an assault mission for sure. And you can read this for yourself. NavalTechnology.com, kind of a neat new place I found to go find all this stuff about the Navy. But another one that's coming up is this M80 Stiletto, which is a very cool ship. And it's something that they're talking about deploying down there as well with SOCOM. And it's basically designed for special forces insertion. And I'll just, you know, play a couple of these videos they have here for you to show you what they're looking at, you know, and what they're thinking that they're going to need in the region.
Surface craft about to commence operational experimentation testing with Navy Expeditionary and Special Forces, one that promises to transform the way U.S. forces conduct close-in coastal and riverine operations. Called STILLETTO, it is an Office of Force Transformation Initiative jointly sponsored by the OFT and the Special Operations Command. With a top speed of 50 knots, an operational range of over 500 nautical miles, and a fully loaded draft of only 2.5 feet, the 88-foot long and 40-foot wide STILLETTO can serve from the coastline to the high seas. STILLETTO's revolutionary M-shaped hull channels water underneath the craft, providing lift and reducing drag, shock, and weight. The hull is constructed of a strong, lightweight carbon fiber composite. Most important is the craft's significant ability to network internally and externally. STILLETTO's electronic keel, UHF SATCOM, and gigabit land communications enable thoroughly networked operations, while its 2,000 square foot reconfigurable payload cargo areas readily adapt to diverse DoD and interagency missions. The full capabilities of this new platform still need to be tested and experimented with. In the meantime, the following animation gives some sense of the potential uses of such a craft in a number of challenging operational scenarios. Seaborne SOF insertion. Our first operational scenario involves a classic covert SOF insertion. For this mission, STILLETTO's loadout can be tailored to include one 11-meter rigid hull inflatable boat, or RIB, to support a 12-man SEAL team and 4 Silver Fox unmanned aerial vehicles. Before Stiletto, surface SEAL team insertions were made by closing with a large amphibious mothership to within 35 miles or so of the target, and then having the team pound into the beach in the 11-meter rib. Using Stiletto, the large high-value mothership can remain hundreds of miles offshore, while Stiletto securely and covertly transports the SEAL team and their 11-meter rib at high speed without subjecting the team to the pounding of a long transit in the rib. While en route, Stiletto can launch UAVs to fly ahead and scout a target area. As they proceed in towards their objective, the SOF team can use port and starboard mission planning areas aboard Stiletto to review maps and view real-time UAV intelligence. Under cover of darkness, Stiletto can deliver the team to within a few miles of the target, be it a coastal missile battery, WMD storage facility, or hostage rescue site. As a mission progresses, Stiletto can serve as a C2 center, coordinating team communications and intelligence from the UAVs and other sensors. Once the mission is complete, Stiletto can retrieve the team and the rib. A helicopter can extract rescued hostages as Stiletto returns to its amphibious mothership over the horizon.
Well, I think that pretty much just kind of covered it. That this is what the Navy is wanting for the 4th Fleet. That ship seems like it has one very, very specific mission. That it would need to put people into an area covertly to conduct a mission. And the final thing I'll leave you guys with today is this issue down in Panama that I was alluding to in my last video. Now, this is a Telesur hit piece on the U.S. military. I don't agree with anything basically in this article, but there is some facts in here that you can glean out of it that are just facts and not opinion. It basically speaks to the large, growing anti-American, anti-imperialist sentiment that is pervading through South and Central America, which is putting U.S. assets and pro-U.S. folks at risk in those regions, Panama being #1 on that list. If these people really wanted to punch back at the United States and hit back, that would be the first stop. Would be the Panama Canal. And, you know, you can read through here. It's a long diatribe of pro-Bolivarian nonsense. Probably, and I know a lot of you are going to be shocked at this, but the one thing that the current administrator has actually done that I agree with is declaring a national emergency for the opioid crisis. I mean, hopefully that'll redirect some funds, you know, into the area, into the Caribbean, and they can get the ships and the personnel, the Navy can, the military can, to put up a bulwark in that area. I mean, building a wall, that's all great and fine, but even if they started digging the hole today, it's not going to be up for 10 years. That money could do so much more in the Caribbean to stop the flow of drugs. I mean, because it's all coming from South America. I mean, if you keep it from, you know, getting from there to Mexico, you don't have to worry about Mexico then bringing it here. I mean, cut the snake off at the head. You know, and that's why I think, you know, the money spent and the time spent and the effort spent would be a whole lot better spent down here. You know, it's not like, you know, I could get into the whole politics of how maybe having, you know, a Cruz Rubio presidency might have given us the ability to maybe reach out to this region, espousing conservative Christian libertarian principles from the highest office in our land to show that we're not these people's enemy. You know, that we want, you know, there to be a version of America that isn't all negative, that isn't all about evil, that isn't all about, you know, hatred and divisiveness. You know, and it's, you know, you can't rehash the election. It's over now. But if we're going to be spending money and we're going to be spending time dealing with the issues south of our border, this is where we do it. This is where the win will happen if we're going to have a win. You know, and this is Japan too. You know, it's even growing over there. And, you know, they talk about all this stuff in here. And like I said, it's a hit piece on Telesur. You can find it. Let's see if you want to read. Yeah, resisting U.S. military bases and Pentagon strategies in Latin America. Yeah. But, you know, it's, you know, Southcom sees this as a threat, as a huge threat. And, you know, we talk about the U.S. and its desire and its appetite for these drugs. It's Africa has it, Asia has it, Europe has it, Russia has it. You know, these the demand for these things isn't just a U.S. problem, but the source, the major source of it, is right south of our border. And there are terrorist organizations that are infiltrating it and using it as cover to plan things to take down the U.S. And that's why I think this would be something we really should have closer to the front page than we have now. So anyway, this has been kind of a lead-off video for this. Thank you so much for all the support. Like, share, subscribe. Keep your eye on Jennifer Hammond. She's going to be talking with the father here very soon, and keeping things going for the sailors, the Fitzgerald and McCain. So anyway, we'll see you next time. Thank you.